Hello everybody. If you can hear me, please let me know. If you cannot hear me also, please let me know. If we have some uh, technical problems, we can solve it. So today's lecture is devoted to conception of prevention and prophylactic medical examination. That's what we call in Russia dispensarization. I don't think actually we have the English equivalent of this word. It's most likely Russian translation. But it means in general prophylactic medical examination. You can see chat if you cannot hear me, so you can let me know, please. And make note about who's present today. Okay, I can see. So you can hear me. Okay, I'm glad to see everybody. I hope that we will be able to see personal soon. So we can start. So usually we can work with break or without break. If we'll work without break, I think my lecture will take a little more than an hour. So we can do this, or we can make break and finish it in regular time. Up to you, your choice. As you remember, last time we talked about prevention and conception of prevention. So before today's lecture, we'll devote also to how it works, how this conception of primary health care works in Russian polyclinic. So I understand that probably you don't want to know this, but we have problems, so we have to, I recommend you to hear it at least, because we have program and we need to finish this program. So several words about what is, according to World Health Organization, how we understand the health, what are the health, primary health and primary health care. And we understand it is a people-centered approach to health that makes prevention as important as cure. And as part of this preventive approach, it tackles the root causes of ill health, also in non-health sectors. So primary health care approach is the most efficient, fair, and cost-effective way to organize a health system. That is what we can see in World Health Report in Almaty in 2008. That is the idea of conception. So the ultimate goal of primary health care is better health for all. As we already discussed last lecture, we understand that to prevent, the idea to prevent diseases is better for people and cheaper for the state. So that is the idea. The main key elements to achieve the goal. The goal is health for all, yes, as I mentioned. They are reducing exclusion and social disparities in health. That actually means universal coverage reforms. It's organizing health service around people's needs and expectation, service delivery reforms. Integrating health into all sectors, public policy reforms. Pushing collaborative models of policy dialogue, leadership reforms, and increasing of stakeholder participation. That is the way how we can achieve the goal to prevent development of disease. So global targets of primary health care according to World Health Organization are All people in every country will have ready access at least to essential health care and to first-level referral facilities. All people will be actively involved in caring for themselves and their families as far as they can in community action for health. So it means that not only the idea to keep population healthy not depends only on the government social service, but also from people themselves. Then the next target: communities throughout the world will share government's responsibility for the health care of their members. All governments will assume the overall responsibility for the health of their people. And one more target is safe drinking water and sanitation will be available to all people. Then, if continue this idea, we can say one of the another targets is that all people will be adequately nourished. All children will be immunized against the major diseases of childhood, infections. Then communicable diseases in the developing countries will be no greater public health significant than they were in the developed countries. All possible ways will be applied to prevent and to control non-communicable diseases and promote mental health through influencing in lifestyle, controlling the physical and psychological environment. And essential drugs will be available too. But there are some obstacles to the implementation of primary health care strategy, the idea of primary health care. They are misinterpretation of the conception of primary health care. Misconception that primary health care is the second-rate health care for poor, and selective primary health care strategies, resistance to change, lack of political will, centralized planning and management infrastructure. There that can make problems in understanding of primary health care. And of course, that makes it moves very slow. And one more reason for slow progress of it is insufficient political commitment to implementation of health for all, the idea of health for all, as you remember. Failure to achieve equity in access to all primary health care elements, the continuing low status of women, slow socioeconomic development, difficulty in achieving intersectoral action for health, unbalanced distribution of and weak support for human resources. Another reason that also can slow the progress towards the main aim of primary health care are widespread inadequacy of health promotion activities, weak health information systems, and no baseline data. Pollution, poor food safety, and lack of safe water supply and sanitation. Rapid demographic and epidemiological changes. Inappropriate use of high-cost technology, and of course natural and man-made disasters. The new idea that will influence health in the 21st century are like widespread absolute and relative poetry, demographic changes. And as you know, the main um, uh, changing during last uh, 30, 40 years, maybe aging and growth of cities. Epidemiological changes like continuing high incidence of infectious diseases, increasing incidence of non-communicable diseases, injuries, and violence. Um, Also, if we talk about last years, last 20, 30 years, of course, we need to mention global environmental threats to human survival. Of course, new technologies, information and TV medicine service, advances in biotechnology, globalization of trade, travel, and spread of values and ideas. Policy objectives to reinforce the primary health care approach by World Health Organization in the 21st century is to make health central to develop and enhance prospects for intersectoral action. Combat poetry as a reflection of primary health care's conception for social justice. Promote equity and access to health care. To build partnership to include families, communities, and the organizations. Now I would like to put attention on the main principles of primary health care, and then I will remind you a little bit about idea of prevention, what does it mean, and then actually I will show you how this system works in Russian Federation. So, principles of primary health care, health prevention and promotion, equity, appropriate technology, community participation, intersectoral coordination, and decentralization. That is the main principles. The components of it. There are how we can achieve this, how we can realize these principles. There are education concerning prevailing health problems and the methods of preventing and controlling them. Promotion of food supply and proper nutrition, and adequate supply of safe water and basic sanitation. Maternal and child health, including family planning. Immunization against frequent infections. Prevention and control of local endemic diseases. Appropriate treatment of common diseases and injuries. The provision of essential drugs acceptable to all people. So now I would like to tell you about the organization of primary health care in our country, in Russian Federation. I need to say that it's possible that there are some the same structures of primary health care in all countries. It can be different, but the idea of preventive medicine are the same in all countries. So I think that if you will know about our system in our country, you will get nice experience to use it in your country too. Or probably some of you will work in our country. So there are some kinds of preventive care. We are talking about outpatient care and inpatient care. Today's our topic will be most likely outpatient care, and that we can take it and can get it in polyclinic. So outpatient care is provided to individuals who require periodic medical observation, treatment in the pre-hospital phase, and preventive measures. The outpatient polyclinic care is the preventive, medical diagnostics, and rehabilitation that actually help performed by the outpatient polyclinic organization of public health service in established volumes. It is obtained when applying directly to outpatient clinic or at home. In our country, it is acceptable and it is achieved. We can do this in home. The case of polyclinic service is each visiting by the patient of an outpatient department with a definite purpose to its realization. So, outpatient care. Then urgent and emergency medical care. That is, it provides patient with sudden illness, with severe or patient that affected by accident, provides health care to the greatest extent possible in the place of the calling during transportation and hospitalization. So emergency, that is the supposed to be available in during transportation and delivery to the hospital on intensive care. And then inpatient care. Inpatient care, that is the hospital, and they provided to the patient who required constant medical supervision, use of complex severe methods, and intensive treatment or surgery that cannot be performed on outpatient basis. So for people who need to be controlled and need to be under supervision of doctor for some days, we have inpatient care hospital, basically hospital. Outpatient care means polyclinic, and inpatient care means hospital. Then in our country we have one more kind of primary health care. We call it sanatorium resort care. Probably for you it will be more easier to understand kind of spa resort care, because sanatorium means a little different things in your understanding. So spa treatment is a kind of treatment and preventive care that provides in health centers, specialized medical institutes, which are mainly used for the treatment of natural factors like climate, like mineral water, mood, and also physical therapy treatment and diet regime. So for this case, this kind of treatment, we most likely take care about people, healthy people, or people with chronic disorders in phase of remission. So that is kind of treatment that acute situation is contraindicated for this patient. So patient chronic disorders in remission or health patient. Ambulatories or health center. Medical care is provided by doctor of one or different specialties. Most of them are family physicians or general practitioners that are actually the same. In polyclinic or outpatient department of hospital, which in modern terms could serve as a consultative and diagnostic center, help before medical professionals of many disciplines. However, to date provided all structures of primary care centers also provided to the population. And so we talk about different kinds. Yes, I mentioned ambulatory or health center, polyclinic, and hospital. Hospital is a place for permanent stay of patient with trauma or excessive another disease, like exacerbation of any diseases like exacerbation of asthma, severe exacerbation of diabetes, which provides short-term or long-term medical care, diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation. So patient can stay in the hospital for several days or couple of weeks to determine the problem and of course to solve it, especially if we talk about acute situation, exacerbation of chronic disorders. So it is that is the hospital. Right now, I would like to mention a little bit establishment in primary health care in Russia. So we have in our country polyclinic, then children's polyclinics and female consulting. So polyclinic cares about population of it. Children's polyclinics protect the motherhood, and female consulting protect the motherhood and the childhood. Modern polyclinic is a huge multi-flight treatment and prevention establishment intended to render medical aid at outpatient reception hours and at home. And it's also to realize the complex of preventive actions on improvement of the population health and prevention of diseases. So the main aspect of work of a region polyclinic or municipal polyclinic are medical, preventive work, organizational work, and mass work. So if we talk about medical work, we mean observation, diagnosis, selection for diagnosis of diseases, examination of the patient, determine the indication for sanatorium and spa treatment, examination of temporary disability, reference to medical social examination. Then, so basically we doctors have deal with the patient who are healthy, and the examination can prove this, or for the patient with chronic disorders in remission. So that is actually one of the aim is to achieve this remission and keep it as long as possible. And patient determine indication for SPA treatment for patients like this. Then preventive work, sanitary anti-epidemic works. Understand that as work is prevention of infections, prevention of exacerbation of chronic disorders. Then organizational methodical work means management, planning, statistical accounting, reporting, analysis of an activity, and improvement of professionals. Говори, я лекцию читаю быстро. Давай. And then one of the kind of work is organizational methodical work that means management, planning, statistical accounting, reporting, analyzing of activity, improvement of professional skills for doctors and nurses. And then mass work. That basically makes sanitary, hygienic education of the population, popularization of a healthy lifestyle. Medical workers of a polyclinic should know main risk factors and explain these risk factors for most of the patient. So that is the way how medical. There is something that we cannot affect, like quality of water, air, and so on. But we can educate people how to understand the risk factors of in their history, family history, and environmental risk factors. That is what you can explain. So the main principles of work of polyclinic in Russian Federation. District principle, dispensation or medical examination, primary medical examination, accessibility and prevention, idea of prevention. So the principle of district principle means that polyclinic, there are some population actually. This principle means some population that achieve to the polyclinic and post-affirmative number of inhabitants. Dispensation method, regular active supervision of a state of health of the certain contingent. And it means examination not only patients with the chronic diseases, but also it means regular active supervision over healthy patients, and it's aimed on the early diagnosis of some disorders. Then accessibility of primary health care and prevention, idea of prevention. The basic scheduled normative parameters. That is the way how we can determine what function the district polyclinic must make. So the district specification means that there are about 2,700 patients on one post of the local therapist. Norm of local therapist loading means 5 visits at 1 hour on reception, in polyclinic, and two patients, or 30 minutes to visit, 30 minutes to one patient at home. The function of physician, number of visits per year for one post of doctor, and the regular specification of local therapies, 6 to 10,000 inhabitants older than 18 years old. And the structure of polyclinic includes physicians, district physicians. It means that there are some particular population achieved to a particular doctor. Then there are some specialists, doctors of different specialities, and every doctor has special schedule. So these parameters, the main doctor, the leader doctor, can switch these parameters as for the number of population and number of visit, but there are some laws that regulate this. So our task is to know what is district physician responsible for, or what are the main function of it. Or I would say that district physician makes a lot of work, and except supervision under patient of attaching district, he also supposed to do a lot of things, like rendering of the qualified medical aid in specialty internal disease during outpatient reception hours and at home, to provide preventive and sanitary anti-epidemic work, dispensation and hygienic popularization. It supposed timely hospitalization to hospitalize in time of patient with established order. It's also organization of consultation of patient with doctors of other specialties. So another one more function or one more aim of the district physician is organization of the realization of medical and rehabilitation activities in outpatient establishment. We talk about patient with some chronic disorders after exacerbation, or patient after some cardiovascular events, for example. Then realization of examination of temporary disability and reference to medical social examination. As you know, we have some commission in our polyclinic, and if patient is unable to work because of some injury or some disease, the commission is supposed to determine this fact and let him financial document that we call working disability list. Yes, that let patient with disorder or disease or injury stay at home and get his salary. And analysis health status of the served population with some statistic data. General physician, district physician supposed also to recognize of outpatient polyclinic service in Russia and create institute of family doctor or general practitioner. As you know, our university right now, all our students graduate particularly as a family doctors, and to get some specialty you need actually to work 2 more years and to enter postgraduate course. General practitioner is the expert widely focused in the basic medical specialties and capable to render the multiplied outpatient medical aid for the widespread diseases and urgent conditions. And number of reserved contingent at the doctors of the general practice is 1,500 adult person at the family doctor in view of the children population, not more than 1,200 person in all age. So the number of patients that supposed to be handled by one general practitioner, district physician, is 1,500 adult, and if we count kids and adults, so not more than 1,200. Another duties of general practitioners. A general practitioner or family doctor, yes, should know the demographic and medical social characteristic of the attached population, promote healthy lifestyle, give recommendation for feeding, for preparing of children for preschool establishment, to advise about family planning, carry out anti-epidemic actions to relieve the primary and latent forms of diseases and risk factors, to avoid risk factors, and to explain patient how to avoid these factors. Another duties of general practitioner also organization of diagnostic, medical improvement, and rehabilitation actions. Diagnostics of pregnancy and supervision of a current pregnancy. Treatment extragenital disease. Revealing contraindication to pregnancy and direction of interruption conducting the hospital period. Organization help together with establishment of social security and services for lonely, aged and disabled people, and patients with chronic diseases, handicaps, including it's also must take care about medical social examination and about the analysis of state of health of the attached population. And one more thing that I would like to say, that right now the idea of family doctor is very popular. That basically means that doctor with a chief population, yes, and it supervises the whole family, kids and adults. Qualifies that is supposed to be qualified medical professional who personally provides primary care to individual patients, families, and public of district independent age, sex, and type of disease. And the next part of my lecture, I would like to remind you about preventive conception. So preventive measures is a main component of medicine. As we already discussed last time, the idea of prevention more acceptable, it's better and cheaper than idea of management of diseases. So creation of system of the prevention of diseases and elimination of risk factors in the major social, economic, and medical tasks of the state. So there are individual and public forms of preventive prophylaxis. As you remember, there are three kinds of preventive maintenance. Primary preventive maintenance, secondary preventive maintenance, and tertiary. Primary preventive maintenance is a system of measures of the prevention of illness, occurrence, and influence of risk factors in diseases, in development of disease. And it concerns vaccination, for example, rational way of working with rational food, rational food, physical activity, improvement of an environmental, and etc. So, primary prevention base means actually to prevent development of disease, especially for patients who get some risk factors. So, if there are some changeable risk factors, we're supposed to explain patient that it is necessary to change it and explain how to avoid these factors. Secondary preventive maintenance means a complex of actions eliminate the expressed risk factors which under certain conditions immune status decrease the overstaying adaptability value, and it can lead to occurrence of relapse of disease. So, if the primary prevention means to avoid risk factors to prevent development of the disorder, secondary prevention basically means that patient already get some chronic disorder and already get some questions. And the idea of secondary prevention is to prevent complication and exacerbation of this chronic disorder. Then, tertiary preventive maintenance. It means a complex of rehabilitation actions of the patient who have lost an opportunity of hybrid ability to live. Tertiary preventive maintenance has four directions of rehabilitation: social, labor, physiological, and medical. So you're not responsible for this. You're responsible only for medical, probably rehabilitation. So we talk about the patients who got some events like cardiovascular events like stroke, for example, or myocardial infarction. And tertiary prevention means to let them come back to their previous conditions and to prevent complication and another complication. And as you understand, the major component of all preventive measures is formation in the population, medical, social activity, and installation of a healthy lifestyle. So if you need, we can make short break and continue in 5 minutes. So if not, we can continue. So, dispensation or prevention medical examination or prophylactic medical examination means the main is a main method of secondary prophylactic using in primary health care. The method is regular active supervision over a state of health of the certain groups of patients. And these groups includes active early revelation, dynamic follow-up, and complex sanitation. The evaluation of the organization of the primary health care or dispensation. So how we can estimate the quality of it and what we're supposed to do to follow the recommendation of prevention. There are some quality indexes, and the quality of dispensation and efficiency of it. So if we talk about quality, first of all, it's coverage by dispensary supervision of those who were not observed within 1 year period, and coverage by various social, prophylactic, and medical preventive measures, spa treatment, food, rational employment, and so on. And efficiency of preventive examination of dispensation. Dynamics, how we can estimate its efficiency. There are some data that we can count and say exactly what is the problem, if we have problem, and how to solve it. So dynamic of mobility rate and disease rate according for efficiency, dynamic of morbidity rate and disease rate according to morbidity rate with temporary disability. Means that the patients who has to stay at home because of their disease and get disability list, disability form for working persons. Yes, of course. Then the second one is general disease rate due to the main and accompanying pathology. Then hospitalized mobility, incapacity including primary one, lethality, and outcomes of dispensation according to annual account, recovery, improvement, no changes, worsening, and so on. So how we can estimate the activity of municipal polyclinic? The analysis of activity of outpatient polyclinic establishment is carried out for, first of all, the improvement of organization of work of polyclinic, current and forward planning of the activity, evaluation of efficiency of various methods of treatment, evaluation of efficiency of diagnostic new medical technologies and new forms of organizational work. And of course, evaluation of quality of rendering of the primary medical aid to overall population. So how we can continue, how we can estimate what data let us to do this. Occupational post of doctors. Ratio number of physician post to number of post of the nurses. Dynamics of patient visits to the polyclinic. Distribution of visit of polyclinic by the form of application for treatment or for preventive medical checkup. So this form let us make we have paper form and electronic form that let us determine the effectiveness of work. Loading for a medical post for a year, for months, for reception hours, and completeness of coverage of the population served by polyclinic by preventive medical checkup. Another qualitative coefficients of activity of district clinic are level of the general disease rate due to visits, a level of disease rate with certain diseases, structure of the general disease rate, primary disablement, structure of primary disablement, structure of contingents of the disabled person, death rate at home, relative number of incorrect diagnoses, number for the advanced cases of oncologic diseases, frequency of cases or days of temporary disability, structure of disease rate with temporary disablement, and some more things. So, at the end, I would like to mention one more time that we discussed today, we talk about polyclinic service or primary health care service in Russian Federation. Polyclinic in our country, except private clinic and specific, we have system of district polyclinic. That means basically that the population of closed territory attached to this polyclinic, and they have special doctor, physician, or general practitioner that's supposed to supervise this population. And the number of population supposed to be not more than 700 if we talk about adult population, and if we talk about family doctor, is supposed to be not more than 1200. Then the idea of district polyclinic except all of this include also the idea of dispensarization. That basically means prophylactic healthcare or prophylactic examination. And the idea of this to find out the diseases in early stages, to explain patients with risk factors how to avoid it, to prevent development of the diseases. And it makes like once a year, for example, for all people, depends from their age and gender. So, and there are some data, in conclusion, there are some data that can let us estimate the effectiveness of this work and let us create some statistic of particular district and particular town. Okay, thank you so much for attention. Still hope to see you personally soon. Good luck, have a good day.